We are waiting for all of you to join us in the room. I suspect today's hottest topic should be climate resilience with the heat wave across Europe, but we'll stick to fundamentals instead. I hope you're all staying cool and hydrated. Perfect, let's start. Welcome, everyone. It's great to see so many of you joining, and let's start with some introductions. With me today are Tom Ducker, responsible for the UK, Ireland, and Latin America at GRESB, Andrea Branca, responsible for Southern Europe and Africa, and my name is Anna Olling. I'm responsible for all the remaining markets in Europe and for the Middle East. And let's take a look at the agenda today. It's going to be this one. I'm sharing my screen. So after the brief introductions, we will talk a little bit about what GRESB is, as most of you here on the call are not yet GRESB participants. Then I will give the floor to Tom, who will talk about fundamentals, and that's the main reason why you are on the call today. And after this, Andrea is going to talk about asset benchmarking and simulated asset scoring, which are other two products that could be accessed together with fundamentals. And in the end, we will also have a Q&A session. So please take a look at the bottom of your screen. There should be the Q&A button. If you can post your questions in the chat, then we'll address them at the end of the webinar. And with this, I guess we are ready to start. So what we are. GRESB operates real estate and infrastructure assessments for portfolios around the world. We also are a non-profit foundation called the GRESB Foundation, focused on stakeholder engagement and governance, and we aspire to be your partner in market transformation. We believe in driving positive change in real asset management and performance. This is rooted in constructive engagement between institutional investors and the real estate managers that they work with. We believe our role is to provide tools to measure, track, benchmark, and ultimately communicate and improve practices and performance in the globally comfortable way. GRESB is real estate focused, and in this way, it addresses the limitations of other reporting standards. We began in 2009 as an industry academic partnership at the University of Maastricht here in the Netherlands. The goal of our funding partners, who were pension funds, was to provide a systematic and comparable set of data about real estate investments. And these are the two products you know us for. So the GRESB Real Estate Assessment and the GRESB Infrastructure Assessment, and I will talk a little bit about them. But the reason why we have this call today is to talk about the new products, fundamentals, simulated asset scoring, and asset benchmarking. GRESB has always been rooted in the intersection between institutional finance and real asset managers. We execute the assessment process via the vicious cycle. The cycle begins with investors. When an investor recognizes the materiality of sustainability information, investors ask their current and future investments for information on their practices and performance. And GRESB provides a common language and a holistic view of materiality on a secured platform to exchange that information. And that's important. GRESB is not a vehicle for public disclosure, but a vehicle for private communication between managers and investors. Companies and managers use the GRESB assessment as a framework to collect comparable information. They use the GRESB platform to organize and validate information, and if they wish, to respond to investors. And finally, investors and managers apply this information to create value and to reduce risk. The GRESB assessment is open for participation only once a year, on the 1st of April. So on the 1st of April every year, we open the questionnaire and our participants have 3 months to answer all the questions. On the 1st of July, we close the questionnaire and then we step in. We collect the data, we validate the data, we score the results, and we provide our participants with peer benchmarks. The preliminary benchmarks are released on the 1st of September, and that's the time for you to see if everything is correct. And the final benchmark reports are released on the 1st of October, and that's the time for our participants to share the benchmarks further if they wish to. The final piece is analysis. There are 3 things that are commonly used. Data themselves, standardized, validated information, practices, and performance. The interpretation of the data results in a 0 to 100 score, showing how you are doing against the standard. And then the ratings, showing how you are doing against the industry. The data are the raw materials, the scores are the interpretations, and the ratings are the indicators of the market position. Each one has a different utility. The GRESB assessment is powered by the GRESB standard, which consists of a set of rigorously defined indicators, metrics, and weights that are developed and approved through a representative governance process. We implement those standards through the assessment. The assessment provides guidance, tools, quality assurance, and supportive services that help you execute the standard. And Tom will refer to the GRESB standard and the GRESB assessment in his presentation about fundamentals. GRESB is led by a nonprofit foundation that provides the basics for industry standards. The representatives of the GRESB Foundation are globally selected to provide a view of what the needs and priorities of investors and managers around the world are in a transparent and accountable governance process. And again, your participation in the GRESB assessment is the way to execute the standard. Importantly, GRESB is a mechanism to assess the investable entity. We focus our analysis on companies, funds, and other investment vehicles that hold, develop, and invest in real assets. We started with a handful of participants back in 2009. Last year, we performed almost 2,400 assessments of investable entities. And those investable entities were across 76 markets and across 15 sectors. And via those investable entities, around 500,000 buildings were reported to GRESB. And as you can see, still around half of our participants come from Europe, but the other regions are growing very fast. And if you wonder if your sector, the sector you invest in, is represented at GRESB, please take a look at the participants by sector section here to see if your peers are already reporting to GRESB. And this is my favorite slide at GRESB. The most critical issue is that GRESB participants improve over time. What this means is that the longer you participate in GRESB, the better you become. And ultimately, you become more valuable and less risky to your investors. Over time, the use of this process of asking, responding, analyzing, and moving forward has transformed individual companies and ultimately the entire industry. And my last slide is perhaps the most important. Information from the GRESB assessment is then applied to financial decisions. Investors and managers engage annually. GRESB assessments are used for capital raising, to communicate with insurance and other parties as a way to attract tenants, underscoring that you are a grade A international caliber when it comes to sustainability. And eventually, the information is used during transactions as a way to communicate your relative value during exit. Finally, our aspiration is that this progress is powered by a cultural change within our participants. They become different companies. Sustainability and its risks and opportunities become more relevant and more visible as participants proceed through communication. Sustainability and its risk and opportunities become more relevant and more visible as participants proceed through the process. There are new internal leadership opportunities, improved internal communication, sustainability-linked compensation strategy, and increased focus on measured data. And that's what happens over time. And with this, I would like to give the floor to Tom to talk about fundamentals.
Great, thank you, Anna. Allow me to just share my screen now. Fantastic. Well, thank you for the warm introduction, Anna. So today, I'll be speaking to you about fundamentals, really a new platform designed to help organizations strengthen their sustainability management practices, really be that starting point to demonstrating credibility in this space. Thank you, Anna, for that comprehensive overview of GRESB, who we are, what we do, and how the real estate assessment works to give context to our conversation. So what's the purpose of fundamentals? Really, we're looking to help companies strengthen their sustainability management, meet the growing industry investor expectations, and ultimately build a stronger foundation for long-term asset value and performance. So why was fundamentals created? Really, the GRESB real estate assessment is widely recognized as the industry gold standard for sustainability benchmarking and scoring. However, we recognize that the full assessment may not be quite right for every organization and is really subject to what stage of the sustainability journey you find yourself on. In particular, it may be challenging for companies that are smaller or under-resourced, very nascent in their sustainability journey, new to sustainability reporting, or perhaps building foundational practices, especially in those emerging markets. Ultimately, as an organization, you might not quite be ready to disclose detailed performance metrics. For these types of organizations, the goal is not to avoid an assessment, but to create a more accessible pathway towards participation and joining the GRESB ecosystem and benefiting from that participation. So what's the market challenge? Ultimately, we are seeing investors' expectations rise, especially when it comes to that governance element. For those companies not ready for the main assessment, this has created a real challenge. Investor, regulatory, and stakeholder expectations around sustainability continue to rise, which only increases the urgency to take action. There are also many companies who want to engage with GRESB, but they may not have the internal structure, the documentation, or as I already mentioned, the performance data needed to complete the full assessment confidently. Again, another pressing issue. These types of companies need a practical first step, something that helps them build readiness, demonstrate progress, and work towards participation in that full assessment over time. So, introducing real estate fundamentals. This is really the principal reasons why we created the solution. It's a new way to engage with GRESB, building a credibility from and that sustainability foundation. So as it highlighted on the slide, this has been built from the existing GRESB real estate standard. But the focus really is on those governance elements, on risk and management processes. Again, it's recognized by global institutional investors and designed to be flexible, cost-effective, and accessible. In short, fundamentals gives organizations a structured starting point for sustainability management while helping them prepare towards full future GRESB participation. So how does it differ from the real estate assessment? Really, there are several key differences between the full GRESB real estate assessment and fundamentals. So taking a look at inputs. On the full assessment side, we consider both management level and asset level performance data. Fundamentals, on the other hand, really focuses on 17 core management indicators, which we'll deep dive into shortly. From a timeline perspective, as Anna already mentioned, the real estate assessment is submitted during Q2 reporting window, so between April and June every year, with results released in October of Q4. We're very happy to report that fundamentals is really moving away from that traditional reporting timelines for GRESB and is available all year round with no fixed deadline, and results are typically available within a few weeks. So really representing a significant departure from GRESB's traditional reporting cycle. In terms of those outputs, again, for the real estate assessment, as Anna highlighted, we provide scores, we provide rankings, and detailed peer benchmarking. Fundamentals, on the other hand, will be a qualifying mark. So this is either a pass or fail, and there'll only be limited peer comparisons. Again, from a use case perspective, the real estate assessment really supports that strategy improvement, investor engagement, and capital raising. Whereas with fundamentals, we're looking to support that credibility, assessment readiness, investor communications, and market entry. So while the real estate assessment is designed for comprehensive benchmarking, fundamentals is designed to help companies build the foundation to get there. And again, just to reiterate, it is an all year round tool with no limitations on the number of submissions. So what's the process? Fundamentals is a much shorter and more flexible process than the full assessment. Preparation takes only between 1 to 3 weeks. So the initial phase would be gathering documentation, demonstrating governance, risk management, and sustainability practices, And once this information is ready, submission can typically be completed within a day. Again, results are usually delivered within 2 or 3 weeks after submission. Another important benefit is that benefits, again, to reiterate, can submit multiple times within the year. So, for example, if you submit and on the first pass do not achieve that pass mark, you can be revisit the responses, look to make those improvements, update the relevant policies, and resubmit with no additional fee. Once a company achieves that pass mark, it is a very strong signal to the market that has made meaningful progress and is becoming better prepared towards taking the full assessment. So, looking at these core 17 management indicators in more depth, really we're covering across 6 themes. Those are companies' commitments, their governance structures, the policies, risk assessment, and stakeholder engagement and monitoring. These themes provide a structured view of how sustainability is managed across an organization. And from our side, the goal is to really help companies build confidence and trust by demonstrating that they have the right sustainability management practices in place. Again, looking to establish a solid foundation for future performance improvement. So let's take a look at these indicators in a bit more detail. So on this side, you can see the full list of questions indicated, including in fundamentals. As I've mentioned, these indicators are designed to assess whether an organization has the core governance, policies, risk processes, and stakeholder management practices needed to manage sustainability effectively. Rather than focusing immediately on detailed asset level performance metrics, fundamentals first ask the question, do you have the right structures in place? Are responsibilities clearly defined from your management team? Are sustainability risks being identified and managed in a process-driven, structured way? Are stakeholders being engaged and monitored? This makes it a practical and accessible starting point for organizations that are building towards maturity. So what's the benefits of participating? Really, by participating in fundamentals, companies can make internal improvements, such as aligning with those growing sustainability expectations, but also validating their core management practices through a recognized and credible third party like GRESB. This allows you to communicate more effectively with investors and stakeholders and working towards building a clearer long-term sustainability strategy, not to mention strengthening that long-term value and ultimately performance. Really, fundamentals is there to help organizations move from their aspirations, move from their initial intentions towards a formalized structure. It gives companies a practical framework for demonstrating that sustainability is being managed in a credible and organized way. So why do we think this matters? Well, in addition to the internal benefits, fundamental also creates external value for participating companies, mainly to demonstrate structured sustainability oversight to investors, again, strengthening risk management and internal decision-making, supporting those capital raising initiatives and due diligence conversations, as well as aligning with recognized institutional standards. Really, it's looking to improve that readiness for future performance disclosure and enhance brand credibility and market expectation. In short, organizations that achieve that pass mark with fundamentals can show credible sustainability oversight. And as we all know, this strengthens investor confidence and ultimately improves market positioning. So how do you know if fundamentals is right to you? When should an entity look to engage with fundamentals? I would say fundamentals are the right fit if your organization, if your governance structures are in place, but full benchmarking feels like a step too far. Firms seeking validation before entering into full comparisons, or internal sustainability programs are being explored, or driven by an investor request. And when organizations, particularly in emerging markets, want to align with global expectations. From a commercial perspective, as I've mentioned before, fundamentals is priced at only 5,000 euros per year, a significant reduction to full real estate assessment pricing with GRESB. Before we go any further, I'd like to just take a pause just to encourage you again. If there are any questions, as Anna mentioned, please do circulate them for the chat. At the end of the presentation, we will look to cover those that we can. So, a structured pathway to GRESB participation. We've created a package deal designed to help organizations start with fundamentals and build towards that full GRESB real estate assessment over time. As you can see by the slide, the package is structured across a 3-year pathway. Year 1, we've labeled the established year. You receive fundamentals, but again, you also receive free access to asset benchmarking and simulated asset scoring. These 3 tools really help you understand your starting point, baseline years, and identify improvements over opportunities over time. And those 2 solutions that I've just mentioned, Andrea will deep dive into shortly after my presentation. In year 2, we call this the improved year. Again, you continue with fundamentals. You also receive asset benchmarking and simulated asset scoring as you did in the previous year. But now the objective and goal is to use these insights from year 1 to make those targeted improvements. Now that you have the data and insights, improvement is the next step. As you can see, that is priced at €7,500. Year 3, we call this transition into the full GRESB assessment. And you participate in the main assessment at a discounted rate of €10,000. Since you would be in your first year of the full assessment, you can participate in the grace period. Ultimately, this means that your results remain highly confidential and are not visible to investor members or anyone else for that matter, unless you allow for this. This allows you to report, understand your performance, and refine your strategy before broader disclosure. Andrea, I'm going to pass it over to you to talk about our asset benchmarking and simulated asset scoring.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for speaking about fundamentals. Now I'm glad to speak about how fundamentals connects to asset level insight. So if you can move the slide. Okay, perfect. So maybe you are asking, okay, what are asset benchmarking and simulated asset scoring? So the simplest way to think about is that fundamentals establishes the company level foundation. Asset benchmarking and simulated asset scoring help translate that foundation into measurable asset level performance and value. So fundamental looks at sustainability from a company management perspective, including, as Tom said, policies, governance, risk management, processes, and so on. And on the other end, asset benchmarking and simulated asset scoring look at sustainability from an asset level performance perspective. So when combined, these tools provide a more complete view of how sustainability is managed from a company level, how assets are performing in practice, and where the improvements can create the greatest impact. So basically, they support a stronger sustainability strategy and help you prepare the organization for future assessment participation. So let's start with the simulated asset scoring. So simulated asset scoring shows how asset level performance could translate into future GRESB real estate assessment outcomes. It helps you understand how improvements in areas such as consumption, energy, greenhouse emission, water, and waste may influence your future scores. It also allows you to understand how portfolio changes, such as acquisitions, disposal, or changes in asset composition, may affect future results. So in practical terms, simulated asset scoring helps you to see how much each asset contributes to your potential GRESB score, which asset may be holding performance back, where are the greater opportunities lying, how targeting improvements could increase future assessment performance. So basically, it gives you a view of how today's decisions may affect tomorrow's GRESB results. On the other hand, asset benchmarking provides a high confidence, actionable performance insights through a private dashboard. So it benchmarks asset performance across areas, energy and greenhouse gas emissions against global relevant peers. The purpose of this product is to help you identify assets that are outperforming and the assets that are underperforming, and also the assets that need further investigation or improvement. Where data gaps exist, GRESB can also support analysis using industry-leading estimates from our database of more than 500,000 of buildings. So let's put it simply, asset benchmarking helps you understand whether your assets are performing like green asset or brown assets compared with the broader market. So this insight can support your decision around retrofit, refinancing, capital planning, and asset management. So at the end, bringing it all together, so to summarize, asset benchmarking evaluates how your asset perform today compared with your peers. Simulated asset scoring, on the other hand, estimates how today's actions may influence future GRESB results and scores. So asset benchmarking helps prioritize where to retrofit, refinance, or to divest. Simulated asset scoring helps reduce uncertainty by showing how asset level change may affect future assessment outcomes. So together with fundamentals, these tools help organizations identify gaps, understand asset level performance, simulate potential GRESB outcomes, prioritize the actions that matter the most, and build confidence ahead of full participation in the GRESB real estate assessment. So basically, fundamentals give you the management foundation, as Tom said. Asset benchmarking and simulated asset scoring help you understand performance and plan improvement, your performance and plan improvements. Together, they provide a practical pathway from early stage sustainability management to all the way up to the gold standard, which is the GRESB real estate assessment. I will be glad to get in more details by defining with you a dedicated demo to showing you the features and the potentiality of these tools. Now I give you the mic again, Tom.
Thank you. Over you, Andrea, and Anna, for that very detailed presentation. So we've left a long time for Q&A, but before we jump in, just to highlight a few items from a housekeeping perspective. So we will disseminate the recording and presentation deck following the webinar to all registrants. And we would strongly encourage you to reach out for a one-to-one to understand a little bit more about the solution. And as Andrea said, for us to give you a live demo of the two solutions mentioned in addition to fundamentals. Please see the end of the presentation, the slide that's highlighted for the commercial representative for your jurisdiction. And as stated at the start of the webinar, we really welcome your questions. Please do leverage the chat function, and perhaps we can jump into some of those now. So I'm happy to take this first question. I can see, does fundamentals lead to issuance of any certificate? So the outcome from, so again, just to outline the differences once more between the full real estate assessment and real estate fundamentals. So whilst on the real estate full assessment side, you get a score out of 100, you get ranking data and benchmarking information, and also that benchmark report with those curated peer groups. Organizations that achieve fundamentals will either receive a pass or fail outcome. So it's a binary outcome. It is pass or fail. It's supported by a formal report and a fundamentals badge. Again, to reiterate, fundamental provides those credible validation of sustainability, governance, and risk management practices rather than a certification. So again, it is a pass or fail outcome. And again, I think just one thing that I'm really keen to reiterate, it is a on-demand product in the sense that there is not just one submission. We encourage you to make as many submissions as required to achieve that pass status. And as I said, the formal report will come back to you within that 2 to 3 week time window. So really allowing for that sustainability improvement performance over those various iterations. Okay, following up with the second question. For a fund that is just being initiated, how does fundamentals help in devising fund level ESG strategy and asset due diligence? Okay, so a credible GRESB aligned framework to establish sustainability governance, oversight, risk management, and acquisition due diligence process before progressing to the first assessment participation. Really, it helps demonstrate that sustainability considerations are being made through your policies, accountability mechanisms, and risk processes, rather than just ad hoc decision making. Okay, I see another question. Can fundamentals be used for just a few assets of the organization? Okay, so fundamentals is really completed at that reporting entity level. Again, it's looking to validate those sustainability governance and risk management practices across that entity. It's not designed to assess or benchmark a selected subset of assets. So for asset level insights and comparison, that would be the asset benchmarking solution that would be more appropriate there. Okay, are the asset benchmarking results based on fixed performance thresholds or on the GRESB participant data? If it is the latter, how stable are the benchmarks from year to year? Andrea, can I pass this one over to you? Happy to take that?
Yeah, of course. So basically, asset benchmarking combines comparison against a large anonymized data set of GRESB participants' assets with external references, frameworks such as GREM and HRI. So the peer benchmarks evolve over time as the underlying market dataset evolves, providing a current view of market performance rather than statistics threshold. So basically, you can have a semi-statistic threshold with CREM and HRI, that the dataset related to our, of course, database evolve as the market is evolving. So you have a live reconstruction of the momentum with our data set.
Right, thank you, Andrea. Anna, have we got any additional questions that have come through?
I did respond to two in the chat, so you can see there were questions about the reported entity. So that's what you tackled, Tom. Tom, maybe you can stop sharing the screen so we can see all our faces. And if you have any additional questions about the pricing, please reach out to us directly so that we can discuss your options as well. And Tom, I think there's one more question for you. Apologies if this has been covered. Do the 17 management components as part of the fundamentals crossover info? Any comparable? Oh, this I cannot read. With the full assessment, are they comparable with this full assessment, or are they built specifically for fundamentals? I think Tom, you can cover that. They are sourced from the GRESB standard.
Yeah, absolutely. So just again, so the basis for these questions really emanates from our existing real estate standard that Anna covered at the beginning of the assessment. But again, there is no compatibility between the scoring. It is an independent solution to that. But again, the indicators themselves very much sourced from our existing real estate assessment. Yes.
Perfect. And there's another question about pricing. Rose, if you can just take this conversation offline with Andrea, I think that would be the best solution. Then we will look at your reported entity, and then we will be able to advise. And there seem to be no other questions, Tom.
Great. Well, look, I suppose just a few more comments in relation to the commercial pricing piece. So as we previously highlighted, I'm just going to bring us back. Still sharing my screen, sorry, just because I want to just covered this structured pathway to GRESB and really highlight the discount that's on offer. So as I said, really looking to encourage those organizations that are at the start, the nascent of their sustainability journey, and looking for a direction of how to get them set up and what are the key elements that they should cover, when it comes to those initial policies, risk management practices, etc. So we want to give our participants the opportunity to demonstrate this performance improvement over time. And that's why we created this structured pathway towards GRESB participation. And just to reiterate and highlight, again, we have that year one, the established year. It's for €5,000. For context, we have an €8,000 price point. But as part of this discounted offer, to encourage participation, we are running that discount. So for year one, the cost will be that €5,000 mark. And again, really looking just to validate those governance management practices and build those internal alignment and processes, really looking to achieve that fundamentals validation. In year two, again, whilst there is a price rise to 7,500, still represents a discount to the full unit pricing. And again, this is where we're looking for our participants to make improvements. They already have fundamentals validation and access to asset level insights and benchmarks. This should give you the opportunity to really identify the gaps and simulate potential GRESB scores, looking to make those sustainability performance improvements in relation to management and governance practice and those risk management initiatives as well. Again, really at this point, we're hoping our client participants are really well set up for participation in the full assessment. And again, that year three, we have a €10,000 price point. For those of you already familiar with GRESB, you might say, well, that is broadly in line with the cost of a 1 year assessment. I think it's worth, maintaining that this is a 3 years time. So again, we do add a yearly price increase to our assessment costs. So that 10,000 again is still representing a discount to the full unit pricing as well. Again, what we really hope this phase approach is we're looking to reduce that initial complexity when it comes to approaching GRESB and the full assessment and the full reference guide. We're looking to give you the ability to build that internal confidence in the initiatives that you're taking from a sustainability perspective, and really to be able to demonstrate credibly, not just internally, but also externally to your investors. Again, ultimately, we want you to move towards GRESB full participation. And when you do, feel that you're very well prepared to set up for success.
And on the last question here, will you share the slide deck later on?
Absolutely. Of course, so all registered attendees, we will disseminate the full deck as well as the recording. On the recording, we would strongly encourage you as well to share that. There's no limitations, and from our side, that would be strongly encouraged. So please do feel free to share the recording. And once again, all commercial representatives on this call would be extremely happy to schedule a one-to-one to really deep dive into the fundamental solution in a bit more detail, perhaps deep dive into those indicators and look what the requirements are from our side. Much like our full reference guide, we do provide what's the intention behind the indicator. Why are we asking this question? What's our expectations and guidance for responding to this indicator? And thirdly, what sources are either involved in originating the indicator initially, or for you to defer to in terms of answering the question as well. So again, we fully support our clients with all this information. And should you wish to deep dive into some of these indicators a little bit more to understand, okay, I really want to understand where I might be, even just taking on fundamentals, we'd be more than happy to facilitate those conversations. So please do feel free to reach out.
Perfect. I guess we are ready to wrap up, Tom.
Fantastic. Well, once again, thank you all for your time. As I've said, we will share the recording post the meeting, but please, we'd encourage you to reach out. And once again, our details can be found at the end of the presentation, but do expect to hear from us as well with the recording and slides in due course.
Perfect.
Wish you all the best, and please do enjoy the sunshine today.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.